Welcome to another episode of JavaScript tutorial series for beginners. In this video, we're going to talk about number methods of JavaScript. In previous video, we talked about string methods. There are some built-in methods in JavaScript that you can use for strings, numbers, arrays, objects, everything. So we're going to focus on the number methods in today's video. So if you create a number variable like this, number equals to 5, the data type of number will be a number. Then you can find that in number, this number object has some methods, some built-in methods like to exponential, to fixed, to local string, all those strings. It has very few compared to string methods. String had more methods. So if you go to the Mozilla Developers Network, you will find the full documentation of all the number methods. So if you try to find out, if you go to the method section, you'll find some methods that are part of number.prototype and some methods are not part of prototype. So the methods that are available in the prototype property, that method we can directly call from this number object like number.toExponential. This is part of the number prototype. That means whatever the number object you create, these methods will be available. But there are some methods like number that is finite, number that is integer. These are all static methods. That means we have to use this number class starting with capital N, okay, dot, then we'll get all these static methods like is finite or is integer. Suppose this method number that is integer, what it is doing, if you add like number is integer 5, is definitely one integer, right? Because it doesn't have any floating point value. But suppose you have like 5.5, that will be false because it is not an integer. Similarly, you have number that is nan. We already talked about nan, right, in the last video. You can go ahead and watch that. So we have is finite, that will check if the number is infinite or finite. So in this example, you can see if we divide by 0, then that will not be finite, that will be infinite. So you can check that. Is integer I already discussed, is nan we discussed in the previous video. We have parse float and parse int. These two are useful. So number dot parse float, right? So suppose you have one suppose you have one string value that is 3.4. This is a string, right? Because we are adding quotation. That means we are creating a string and we want to convert this to number. And as you know that this is a floating point value because we have dot 4 here. So that means it is a floating point value. So we have to use this parse float to convert this string to number. If I execute this, you can find out that it is returning 3.4 as a number. It is not a string because we don't have the code here, right? Similar to number the parse float, we have parse integer, parse int. So in that case, it will only keep the integer value. Now if we parse 4.5, it will only keep the integer value 4 and it will reject the floating point part, that is 0.5. So these two methods are useful, parse int and parse float. As it is part of core JavaScript, I think you don't have to write this number dot. You can just write parse int and parse float. That is also a valid JavaScript. Okay, what else we have? We have toFixed. toFixed is one useful method. This will convert your number to string. It will actually format your number with some fixed floating point value. So suppose I have one number variable called number that is 5. Now if we add number dot toFixed up to 2 decimal point, then it will convert to a string value with 2 decimal points. Now suppose you have something like this, number equals to something like this. It should be a number, something like this. Now if you call number the toFixed up to 2 decimal point, it will only keep 0.34 and it will reject other parts. This number the toFixed is for formatting your number. It's useful sometimes, can use. Or similar to the methods, we also have some properties in this number object. For example, this number dot max value, I type this number the max value. So this is the maximum value of a number. Similar to this, we have min value, we have negative infinity and positive infinity. Suppose we have this number dot positive infinity or number dot negative infinity. So these are useful if you want to write some math expression or math operations. These values will be useful. So that's it for today's episode. If you liked it, please hit like, and if you are liking this series, then you can consider subscribing. If you have any questions in mind, then please ask me in the comment section. I'll try to answer them. And thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next episode.